So I've been on the Iran deal for a couple of weeks now, and after my last video, a number of people have asked me specifically to talk about the Iran deal and its effects on Canada. So I thought I would just cover the Iran deal briefly and then talk about what's going on in our foreign relations. Now, the Iran deal itself is basically aimed at preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, but there are a number of problems. First is that the critics point out that a lot of this will prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon within 10 to 15 years. So it's really designed at slowing them down. There's an inspection regime and some limitations that they have, so they can't necessarily get all the technology. But one of the main problems is that according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, so a UN body, they're basically violating all restrictions of the deal. So they're not really following any of these restrictions. And I think at this point in time, it's really unclear how close they are to a bomb. There haven't been any reports of tests, so we're assuming that they don't necessarily have an active bomb, but doesn't mean that they can't maybe test somewhere else. That's often what countries do when they're trying to develop a nuclear weapon in secret, maybe test somewhere else. But the main issue is, how does this affect Canada? Now, if you did watch my last video, I spoke about how the Iranian government and the Iranian military, specifically the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, is involved in huge amounts of money laundering in Canada. So they're basically using Canada to launder millions and millions and millions of dollars every year. Now, this is a serious problem because, number one, when you have a lot of dirty money, you can get involved in a lot of dirty things. It's not just terror. There was a report of someone who is tied to this money laundering making donations to political parties. So that really sets things up where you could influence things politically. If you have money that you have to burn, there's definitely a lot of ways you can buy influence or buy favor with politicians. So that is a huge concern, considering that Iran is not, it's not the best actor with the best intentions at this particular point. And this is the Iranian regime, of course, not the people themselves. So that is, I think, one of the concerns. But the other concern is actually a story that very few people picked up on. This is a story of the type of thing that the Iranians can engage in, and this is an Edmonton software engineer which said that the regime attempted to make him their spy. So they basically picked him up while he was visiting in Iran. This is, again, the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, picked him up and attempted to make him their spy. So it's pretty clear, I think, that the Iranians are interested in getting involved in spying in Canada. Canada has access to a lot of information. This person was a software engineer, so it's not really clear what they would have necessarily had access to that the Iranians would be interested in. But Canada has access to a lot of information, given that we're part of the Five Eyes, so that's the 5 countries that share intelligence. But this type of thing should be concerning to all Canadians, because we are, in many ways, letting our country be used to launder money and letting our country be used as a platform for spying against not only our country but our friends and allies. And I think this should be concerning to all Canadians. Now, there was a number of people who raised concern about possibly Canada re-engaging with Iran. That really slowed down when Trump took a very hard line on the Iranian regime, and of course when COVID hit, then pretty much everything else went out the window, and it was all COVID all the time. But there is a large concern, not only by people who investigate and follow interactions in the Middle East, but by a lot of Iranian expats and Iranian organizations in Canada, very concerned with the government re-engaging with Iran, because, again, in their view, it will embolden the regime. It might provide sanctions relief, might provide financing for the type of nefarious activities that the Iranian regime has already been involved in and might wish to get involved in the future. So I think overall those are the main things that we need to be concerned with regards to Iran. Again, there are a number of issues going on right now, and the Middle East often seems very far away and not connected to what's important in our daily lives. But the Iranian issue is definitely one that we should keep on the radar, something we should at the very least pay some attention to. And I hope that our government is listening very seriously to a number of stakeholders who share real concerns. And again, especially given the fact that a UN agency, the Atomic Agency, says that they're basically violating every single restriction of the Iran deal. So I really don't know, what is the interest by a number of governments in returning to the negotiating table. Clearly, they're not following, but we'll see. Hopefully, hopefully cooler heads prevail, and we don't just, re-engage to re-engage. Other than that, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. You learned something about the Middle East, and if there's any questions that you have about the Middle East, feel free to drop them in the comments. I would love to be able to start a bit of a series or talk a little bit about what's going on in the region and its effects on Canada. So once again, for True North, I'm Sam Eskenasi. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the latest and greatest from True North. Thanks again.